Hello, welcome everyone. It's nice that you still around late at the second day of BLOCKCHANCE. Well, we have an exciting talk here, a panel with Fabian and Anika, and my name is Cem. We're going to talk about what's next for NFTs. And before we start, maybe we do a little introductory round. Maybe you want to start?
Happy to do that. Yeah, welcome everyone to our panel on NFTs. I'm Anika Patz. I'm working for a law firm, so I'm a lawyer. I'm not a developer, but this is your role then. I'm working for YPOG. We are a company based in Hamburg, Berlin, and we're advising more in the regulatory space, so financial services, banking, but with a heavy focus on crypto businesses, including then also products, which would then also be NFTs. And maybe some of you have heard in the next years, 18 months from now, NFTs will also get a kind of regulation. Not all of them, but some of them. And we will also take a look into that. So,
my name is Fabian Vogelsteller. I'm developer, founder, builder. Have been around in the crypto space for many, many years. Started out 2013. Been part of Ethereum in 2015 to 2018. Built the first actually app that Ethereum launched, which was the Mist browser, the first Web3 browser, and Ethereum wallet. Worked on developer tools and worked on standards. One standard that I proposed in 2017 is ERC-725. It's kind of a on-chain account system. And that's something that I'm using heavily now in LUKSO. So LUKSO is a blockchain that we started and initiated. Actually, was started by the people. We initiated it. And that's what I'm working on additionally with more standards and tools and builder things.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I'll just keep it really brief. My name is Cem. I'm working in the intersection between creativity and technology. Basically, I have a creative agency in Cologne and Berlin. And I want to start with a question maybe to hop in directly into this conversation of what's next for NFTs. In one of your prior talks, you were saying people are not using blockchain. Why are people not using NFTs?
That goes to me.
I think pretty much all the questions will go to you.
Happy to take that.
I mean, I would say like why? I think like I gave a talk in Bogota, DEF CON, Shelling Point, and I think like if you really look at the numbers, and if we say we have 100 million, 150 million users in blockchain, then most of them on exchanges. MetaMask is the most used wallet, has 20 million users. Then you look at the statistics of D-app trackers who track activity on D-apps. They have around 2,000 users per day. When you then think half of them are bots, you get to a very low number of actual real users, like that you would say use daily D-apps or really like, using blockchain. And it's kind of funny, that we have this space with conferences and $2 trillion market cap in 21 and all of this stuff, and like nobody's actually really using apps and D-apps, and interacting with this stuff. I mean, even literally on very nerdy tech conference like DEF CON, the only app people use is POAP. Which is an NFT.
I got a drop today.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess to extend those numbers to NFTs, I wrote a few down. I mean, $78 billion of NFTs were traded. Approximately, it was just really nicely presented by the guys before us. Around 40% of that is wash traded. Around 140 million NFTs have been minted just alone on Ethereum, and there's around 9 million unique wallets holding an NFT. So there is actually a lot of people, potentially a lot of transaction volume, and it's a very dynamic community. There's already a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of tools people are using. Ethereum, some of them are using different chains. And now also there's ERC 6651 coming up, which is kind of a token-bound account. So you can hold, these NFTs can hold different tokens like ERC 721, ERC 20 tokens. But still looking all of this, you decide to go with something else, building LUKSO. Maybe you can explain us a little bit, what do you see, what is missing, and how do you define creator economy from your perspective?
I mean, I think that, there is users, right? Like, but there's hodlers, hodlers and traders. That's not really users, in my opinion, because users would be doing things besides just like buying and reselling. The difference is like basically what is LUKSO? It's a new chain that's like ETH2. It's a literally, so there's one of 3 Ethereum chains. There's Ethereum, Gnosis, and now there's LUKSO. These are the 2 ETH2 like chains that I know of. Maybe someone else made some that I'm not aware of. And from a chain perspective, it's literally the exact same like Ethereum. It started decentralized with as a proof of stake system directly. That's kind of the big difference, and obviously has a different initial supply and stuff. But the real big deal is the standards that we bring to the table. So over the last few years, I have been thinking out, working, and detailing out a lot of new standards actually, and we call them LUKSO standard proposals on purposefully not proposing them in the ERC space. So Ethereum request for comment is a term I coined in 2015 actually, just making it up. Thought like we have a debate from the community and then come to standards. The ERC term became the standards, and I wanted to pull it out from there because in order to fix what's broken, we need to rethink the basic building blocks. We need to make them right, and we need to, most importantly, add the missing building block, which is identity, which is your on-chain account system. And I have spent literally since 2017 thinking about that and actively building it out since 2018 when we started LUKSO. And the biggest problem we have right now in the blockchain space is UX, right? People can't use really blockchain. That's the reason why there's no real users on a daily basis that interact with the apps. And I think specifically the creator economy and specifically the NFT space is heavily needing an on-chain account system and identifiable accounts. Because right now, funny enough, when you look at the NFT space, it's all about the collection. There's a collection drop, and then this collection gets super popular, and then people trade it, and blah, blah, blah. But who actually really cares, who would matter the most should be the creators of the collection. Because I might create more collections and more things later on. But right now, that's not even relevant. If you look on the on-chain...
I would not agree on that. It's not relevant.
So the problem is that there is on-chain no real way to see them. You can go to OpenSea, you see a profile, right? You see some creators. You delete OpenSea. You don't know anymore who these people are. There's now random accounts on the blockchain that did something that changed. Probably maybe they have ENS, then they have a name, but they changed their ENS keys underneath so many times that you can't even authentically prove anymore what is what and really know who is who, and is this a copycat of the original collection? Is this the original collection? So it gets very hard to figure out.
The topic of provenance in general, generally talking on Ethereum mainnet, and it's a very dynamic market, and one aspect that Ethereum is so successful for NFTs is the provenance itself. The early projects that came on Ethereum, the community that has been built on Ethereum and around Ethereum is very important to the community itself. This is maybe one of the reasons why other blockchains, Solana or Matic or Polygon or even Tezos, which has a very unique artistic community, has not been so successful when it comes down to trading volume and all of these things. And I get the problem that you want to solve the initial, basically the problem of the dictionary or researchable, not dictionary, a database.
Identifiability.
Right, identifiability, that's great. So you want to solve this with universal profiles. And at the same time, we have a lawyer here. KYC is going to be a big problem or big topic in that as well, right? So is that a good timing? Is that coming also with Mika and all of these topics together right now, thinking about KYC, universal profiles?
So I think it's great that we think about profiles, because not just for KYC reasons, because this is a big topic, but I think you can build now on your product, let's say to have a KYC background, because it's just for now having a profile, as I understood, right? You can put any data into it. And now we could have or build an economy around where we have then verified KYC providers that also collect different data from you, like your passport, your, I don't know, your bills you have to verify your addresses, so your physical addresses where you live. I think for the space, this is very important to get this KYC solved, because it's mostly a deal breaker for people using products if they have to go through a video identification and such huge breakup rates. And if you now have a product that you can build on and you have it within a blockchain, this can solve many problems, I would say, and make it usable for
artificial problems created by regulators for no fucking reason.
Just money laundering.
I mean, I'm just bashing here, but I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of creativity comes out of anonymity, and a lot of cool things happen because people can do what they want. Sure, you could have KYC providers that can authenticate universal profiles. In fact, it's a very flexible system. You can attach any kind of information on, so you could attach KYC data on. I hope it's not a draconian requirement of the Orwellian future of blockchain here that this is going to happen. But I think the fact is we need smart contract-based accounts that we can properly manage as users, number one, that have identifiability through, I mean, not meaning that you need to know who's behind it as a person, but you need to recognize them again when you see them again, or when they do something again, you should be able to recognize them. The profile picture, a name, description, followers, a reputation system, these are all things that make things recognizable. And when currently we have a disconnect. We have a disconnect between what's on-chain, what is happening on the blockchain that's really truly there forever or decentralized, and then what is kind of the old Web 2 style. And currently we have this kind of mixed match between your OpenSea profile and then what's happening on-chain. Or people using Discord, and that's where they have the users and stuff like this, and then when the DAO of the Discord does something on-chain, and there's a total disconnect between the two. You don't know who's the Discord user and who's the person on-chain. Same with NFTs and creators. If you have a smart contract-based account, you combine this. The account that's acting and that's sending messages in a decentralized chat app like Common Ground is the same account that issues the NFT. The account that issues the NFT is the same one that does other things somewhere else, maybe in a decentralized Twitter or whatever other collection it creates. It can now do this forever through this account. And it can do this because this account is manageable, long-term, can have complex permission systems in front of it. For example, for a brand, right? You can't have just one guy owning the private key. They have departments, they have different kind of permissions of what they can do through the official brand account. So this thing becomes manageable. When this becomes manageable, they will start to use it consistently. And that creates then over time reputation and recognition and all of these things that you really want to have. And for users, it's great because you have now a long-term manageable account, or actually you will have multiple profiles that you can really base reputation and create reputation on. Create your followers as an artist, for example. Engage with your community. Know who is the people in your community because you can see them, you can see their profiles, you can see their interactions. And this is not just a new platform with a new Facebook or a new whatever. It is the decentralized version of it. The profile you have in one place on the blockchain, on LUKSO, on your smart contract is the exact same that every other app reads from. Every other protocol interacts with. So there's one place to go to look, to know what's happening with that person or that brand or that creator. And not anymore, the Twitter account and the Instagram account, and maybe you also does something on Facebook, or maybe you also does something somewhere else, and it's all scattered all over the internet right now. It unifies these things, and that really allows for true decentralization and true communities and all of this stuff. So, my opinion.
So, I mean, I understand the perspective that you're coming from, and it's a great perspective because obviously there's many problems that you just also mentioned within the NFT space. that have kind of solutions, like you know, for example, if you like anonymity, you go to Xcopy, he's anonymous, we don't know who's behind. If you want to find all the contracts of Xcopy, for example, you can search through his website.
If you're a detective, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very difficult process, and it also enables scammers. So there can be a fake collection, and you can think, okay, this is Xcopy, and buy into that and stuff. All these problems exist. But when you scale it the way you do right now, or you just describe it right now, it sounds to me actually quite centralized, because all my identity, all my accounts will be attached to LUKSO. How do you? Isn't that like kind of a dilemma? How do you transact with that?
I mean, LUKSO is a decentralized network, so it's the same. Like if you have an account on Ethereum, like Ethereum doesn't own your account; you own your account on Ethereum. So,
but when we go into the tokenomics, there is it's a little bit different, right? You as a there's a foundation, then there's a team, and then there's all these different people who kind of build nodes and kind of secure the network. 30% or so of the tokenomics belong to the foundation, right? So there is some kind of a centralized aspect to it as well, isn't it?
I mean, it's a young network. Number one. Number two, it's actually the initial token supply was chosen by the community. They picked and choose that. The project is already existing since a long time. The network started recently, but the project is already like 3-4 years old. So there has been a large community. I think there's over 60,000 token holders in the project. There's like a very engaged community. So it's already pretty decentralized for a very young network. The foundation is a Swiss foundation governed by Swiss, rules and laws. Does own a substantial amount of token, which actually the community credited to them because they started the network. The network was started by the people in a decentralized manner. We in the German company and the Swiss Foundation doesn't run a single validator. So our power is 0 right now. Sure, could the foundation stake something? Yes. But actually in the deed, it restricts the foundation to stake more than 33%, or actually more than 30%. So the foundation could, by law, not even control the network in any way. On top of this, there's a burn function, or like there's a function built in that when the market cap reaches a certain value, the foundation is required to actually put 70% of its LUKS into a smart contract that deducts them over 5 years. So there's a lot of mechanisms also on a legal basis that we build in to ensure decentralization. The other thing is, maybe I want to mention is, if you look at a lot of blockchain projects, a lot of the founders and teams and whatever gave themselves like massive amounts, like 10, 15, 20, 30%, if you look at most of these projects. At the initial supply we proposed, the founders had like 3%, something like this. It's marginal compared to any of what other projects did. And in fact, there's some private investors, because they put money in, they even own more tokens than I do. Right. Because they paid for it, they bought them, back in the day, so.
Sure, I mean, I didn't want to go too much into tokenomics. I mean, let's stick to the NFTs as well. What happens with all the NFTs that have already been minted when Universal Profile launches? I mean, for example, let's take some cases. We can look at brands. There's like every fashion, every huge brand in the world right now has kind of an NFT Web3 strategy. They're all active, from Nike to Adidas to Louis Vuitton, etc. So what do you do with those? Are they?
They have to scrap that.
They have to scrap that and start from now.
Because it's all built on shit. That's the truth.
Burn.
I mean, the thing is the following. Yes, there's different networks, right? And you have to pick your country, which network you want to operate on. The problem is right now, all this what these brands are doing is playing. They're experimenting. They're just using whatever, standard exists there, and a 7-to-1 is the chosen one, and they're just playing around. The problem they have is that they mostly have actually customers that are normal people. So right now, none of their customers can use their stuff. So the only one they're actually selling their things to is this few crypto nerds that kind of somehow manage MetaMask and know how to use things. their ordinary customers can't even touch whatever they are doing. So these NFTs are irrelevant anyway from that kind of perspective.
But imagine the technology is going to be much easier in the next years. I mean,
that's what we're building.
Things like
exactly, that's what we're building.
You know, sticking on the Ethereum network or L2s. I mean, even L2s is quite complicated. It makes it even more complicated because you have to bridge things and stuff. But let's stick to Ethereum. I mean, there's like wallets like Magic Wallet, right? So you can just create an email address, and to that email address you have a non-custodial wallet. So things like this are entering the market. You know, they just receive
the comparable. Sorry, but it's not comparable because in currently what's being, I mean, first off, the standards, universal profile standards, they are EVM standards. They're unbiased. Every network can use them, right? In order to make them successful, we actually have to initially subsidize them. We have to create the first user smart contracts wallets. We will subsidize early users, and that's also one of the reasons why it needs a new network to foster and push for these new standards. Then once people realize this is the better way of using it, and developers realize it gives them far more possibilities of what they can build, it will be a natural adoption that will happen. And eventually that adoption will even cross over into Ethereum and Polygon and all the other chains. They will all use the same thing because people will want to demand it. They will want to have that user experience somewhere else. It's the same like asking somebody to ride horses when there's already cars. I mean, sure, that works as long as they haven't sit in a car. I mean, or let's compare Teslas to old school gasoline cars. They kind of look the same in the outside, but they're very different inside, very different everything. And this is the same here. So the thing is, there's solutions, but they're hacky solutions. Because the problem we have right now is that everybody still thinks in wallets. They think like, oh, we need a better wallet and a magic link to a wallet and have a recovery system here for whatever wallet. But it's all about like going back to this key.
But the universal profile is also a wallet, right? You have a seed phrase.
Yes and no. So the thing is, your universal profile can be used as a wallet. It is technically, it's an address. It can hold things. But it's not a private key per se. You use private keys to interact with blockchain. That's just the way how the text works. But because you have now a smart contract wallet, and you can have many private keys and many different ways of how you control this profile, the private key itself becomes irrelevant because it's replaceable. The seed phrase is irrelevant because it becomes replaceable. If you have multiple devices that can recover your things, if you can have a social recovery system or a system that even uses some whatever logic in a smart contract to recover your stuff, the seed phrase doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant. Your device contains it. Your device knows the private key. You never need to read it. So this whole different way of how you can construct now UX around these things, and that will make this what I said, long-lasting, manageable, basically.
I mean, I always like to, read the room, and also besides blockchains, I think one of the problems in Web3 and in blockchain, as you said, also it's way too complex. So I try to be as non-tech savvy as possible and kind of cut it down. Always, I mean, we in our pre-talk, you said if we don't talk about tech, it will not have any substantials. So I agree totally. But let's maybe try to reduce it a little bit on the technical things, and maybe you can give us some cases that where you see how LUKSO can be used in the future. Like, what are the use cases where you see NFTs going with LUKSO together?
I mean, so NFTs is right now a little hype, about images you can attach on a blockchain. I think also now it's about NFTs, before it was about tokens, but there's so many more things we can do in smart contracts. We can create incentivization protocols. NFTs or tokens can represent rewards, they can represent memberships, they can represent, your voting rights or your time spent in the community or your activity that you did, your social status, your reputation, whatever else, right? I'm actually more excited to see all these social use cases that will come now, where we actually use blockchain as a core layer for social interactions between people, groups, and communities. I think that's far more exciting, and NFTs will play one part in that, And right now, the blockchain space over the last few years, it has been so much focused on trading, selling, and buying. And that's honestly an extreme niche use case if you think of everyone else in the world. It's something that needs to exist, it's useful, right? But this is not what's going to drive mainstream adoption, nor what mainly people will use the next few years blockchain for. They will use it for interacting in the internet, interacting in communities, actually reorganizing themselves within communities and governing themselves within communities. And I think that's kind of like the very exciting parts and use cases of
So social network based on blockchain, basically. That's your proposal where things are going. And you know, I'm thinking about that, like you're looking at regular user behavior and you know, in communications throughout the world, and not just in the Western world, not just in Hamburg or in Berlin or specifically here. I mean, you know, crypto demands a lot from people. NFTs demands even more. You need to have crypto, then you have to understand art, and then you have to understand community. There's so many layers that are very difficult to manage for people. And what you're proposing is also quite opposite to what we have right now, right? So I have my phone, I have all these different social networks, all these different apps. I use Telegram, I use Signal, like, you know, it's all kind of connected to my phone number or to other you know, authentication methods. And why should we stop doing that and starting to use a crypto validation instead?
I mean, it's not so much about like, I mean, LUKSO, you know, it's not replacing every app in the internet, obviously. It's about the foundational structure of how this stuff works. Right now, you don't own accounts. You know a password that gives you access to other people's platforms. And if they're nice, they let you the next time in, you log in, right? If they delete your account, they don't let you in. That's how the internet works. You don't own none of these accounts. You don't own none of that, right? They can shut you out at any point in time. When we are creating, or when we are using a blockchain-based account system, the one who controls that address, the one who can verify I own this address and therefore a website can let me in, the one who can do the transaction from this or owns whatever this transaction or this account owns on the blockchain is the person that has to control. That's you. That's the company, that's a system or a car, whatever else it's going to be, or a robot actually. So everybody now has self-sovereignty and real control over their things. And once we have this, you can use that to log into different websites, right? Somebody could make a decentralized chat system or decentralized tweet system that uses this account system under the hood, but it's just a better account system. It has obviously drawbacks. Currently, blockchains are public. So whatever you're doing on this account will be visible for people. So you have to be very conscious about what you're doing, you know, with an account that you say, hey, that's my public persona, and everybody knows that's you, versus other profiles you use for your gamer identity or in other kind of communities.
So I'll need different wallets, basically. Different universal profiles.
It's like, you know, to translate, yes, multiple profiles like different wallets.
Right.
And you might have 5
or
whatever.
So to bring Anika in that, I think it's a good transition to, it sounds like regulatory or governmental bodies will not like this. What is the thought of that? What do you think of that?
I think they will like self-sovereign identities because they're exploring that, but more than in a way that they actually know who you are. So I think you can build on this, so what you already have built is a good layer, and then you could expand it also for the regulators and using it. But as you said, it's not your core.
I mean, the thing is, this is a very flexible tech stack, and people can build whatever versions of forms out of on top of this, what they want. I mean, obviously, governments always have the interest to ideally have total transparency and total control over everything. That's luckily not how democracy works, and that's not what people want. Identifiability is useful, right? We do also need to have the possibility to not be publicly known or not be totally identifiable. I mean, otherwise innovation doesn't happen. Otherwise creativity doesn't happen. We have seen a trend over the internet, right? In the beginning of the internet, everybody just used whatever, you know, custom names. You know, they made up their own nicknames, and that's how we used the internet. And then there was, you know, Facebook and MySpace, and everybody started to become the real person, you know, using their real names. I mean, in Germany, there was this trend to use your fake last name, invent a fake last name, and then think you're anonymous on Facebook. But the thing is that basically people actually do like to be transparent. It's not that they need to be forced to be transparent. I mean, because you only gain reputation
I think just for
to
certain
being
use cases,
somehow identifiable, right?
completely agree. I think just for certain use cases where you need to know the identities. If we go into the money market, we look around where you have AML problems, there you would need to know who's the person, but not for Facebook or such. But yeah, I think time's up.
I think we're almost up. Maybe to wrap it up, if it's okay, like, you know, in blockchain and crypto, it's very difficult to kind of project the future. It's such a dynamic market, and besides the trading and the prices, I mean, I don't care about that really. But when you look at NFTs and LUKSO, and just at NFTs, maybe general also, without you know, your LUKSO perspective, what do you see for the next 12, maybe maximum 24 months happening? What are the next steps?
Maybe to say, I mean, this is not so much a product LUKSO focus perspective; it's a technology perspective. I mean, I have been in the space building since day one. The things that I have built had a lot of impact in this space. I mean, I had my hands in pretty much all the essential things that everybody's using.
Without you, we wouldn't have all the meme coins.
That exactly, you know, and in fact, everything else kind of came out of all of this as well. But the point is, it's more a technology. I mean, I have spent a lot of time thinking of how this stuff works and how we can make it better. And LUKSO is the network where we can now try out these new standards, and we can try out this new way of using it. I'm very convinced that this will convince users, but especially developers, that this is the best way of doing it. I have thought long about it enough in our team that I have not found a better solution that anybody has, or that somehow will not end up exactly at the place we already are. So that's why I think that will be something that will win, just because it is the right way of doing things. When it comes to the perspective, I mean, like I said, I think the next wave on the next trend will be decentralized social media in some sort. That, I think, will be the real trend that actually will bring normal people in. And that obviously requires first the usability and the UX problem to be solved. And I think we have solved that, and this will be improving, the better interfaces we can make over time and so on.
Yeah, I love your conviction and your vision. Should we ask for questions maybe, or is it time over?
Well, the thing is, this is our last panel for today, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for everybody here to ask.
We'll be here forever.
Or maybe not forever. Some people might go to side events after, but...
Yeah, is there any questions from the audience? Please go ahead.
And by the way, I do love tough questions, because I do have a lot of answers. Because I thought about these things a lot, and I mostly don't get the tough questions, and that's kind of...
I hope I wasn't too tough. Hey, Alejandro.
Oh, wait. We need a mic, because we're doing a live thing. So could I... Thank you. Okay. Off. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Oh, that's quite loud. I've been walking around here, and everywhere I go, I see AWS cloud. So if we have decentralized solutions on an Amazon server, am I not understanding a thing, or isn't there isn't there an issue?
I mean,
I'm not a techie, so maybe I just don't get it.
So you mean nodes running on
a lot of
services?
I talked today to a guy from OVH Cloud that I know for a long time, like Alex, and he talked a lot about decentralized application services running on AVH infrastructure. So that doesn't make it decentralized, does it? When we build something and then it builds up on a foundation, I'm fairly questioned because I don't get it.
I mean, I don't exactly know how. So the thing is, blockchains and the way of how stuff works is decentralized in the way of how it can work. How people are deploying nodes, where they're deploying their apps, is a whole different question, right? So obviously, even Ethereum is run pretty big on AWS. For example, we run our infrastructure on Google Cloud, but actually we're not running a validator anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I guess that's something, there's like, once you have a system that works well decentralized, then this is the ideal. Over time, all the other components of where you run the nodes and how apps are served, and are they running in your phone only, or are they coming from a server, that can be changed later without the blockchain, and the core infrastructure need to change. So if we have mesh networks now everywhere, right, and you have your home little dApp node, let's say, at home that runs your own node, and you even only reading from your own home node anything that has to do with blockchain transactions, you know, that's something that can be added later, and now you get create real decentralization. So it's something, you know, if you have a good platform, things can improve. I mean, same like an electric car, right? It has an electric engine and a battery. If we in the future have 0-point energy, you can remove the battery and the thing will run forever. That car will already work for that because it has an electric engine, right? With a gasoline car, you can't do that because a gasoline car will ever only run on gas. So it's kind of the same thing. You just need the right platforms, and that will create the right direction, the right path forward to make this future reality. It doesn't need to be perfect from day one. In fact, one funny example, when we built the Mist browser, the first Web3 browser, we literally tried to do it as decentralized as possible. So you had to run a node. It was only running locally. The whole idea was that every DApp you see in there is served from back in the day. It was not IPFS, it was Swarm that we wanted to use as a decentralized file serving system. And yes, we did it, right? And it worked. But you know, after 3 months, you know, every time you open up the Mist browser, you had to wait 20 minutes because I had to sync up the node. So it became very user unfriendly over time the longer the Ethereum chain got. So even though we could build it, it was not very convenient. And that's why MetaMask won, right? They basically got inspired by the Mist browser and thought, hey, we can do the same thing as a browser extension, and we will connect to an external node. And that's the status quo so far today, right? It's not the ideal, but it's a better user experience. Once we have, again, better decentralized node serving services and RPC, or maybe you have your dApp node running in a home router, you can change that, right? So it's something that can evolve. But the core tech is already pretty good in its basic setup, so.
All right. Any other question? Somebody who wants to use the opportunity to ask Fabian, who's been working with Vitalik on lots of important things? Because otherwise, I would have a question, actually. What do you think about Lens protocol? I mean, that's something... Yeah. I like the reaction. Okay.
I mean, I don't want to bash here, but
hey, it's your stage. I mean,
it's not really comparable. So this is exactly the problem we're having right now, is that people think in wallets and in private keys, right? Even like when you talk to developers and we explain them how universal profile works, they ask all the time, where's my key? Because the key is for them the important thing. They want to have everything on the key, and the key needs to be the one who has the assets and everything. But that's what Lens protocol, for example, does. They say you connect your wallet somehow to an NFT, that's your profile, and then there's some other protocol that gives you some, I mean, how should I explain it in simple terms? I mean, I would say it's a custom-built knot out of like different functionalities with some extensibility, but it doesn't have anything to do with a generic smart contract-based account. I don't know why everything has to be an NFT. That's a very confusing choice to me. I would actually think that Lens protocol they want to do a set of social features. That's something you could very easily build in universal profiles, and they probably should scrap that core thing they have, replace it with universal profiles, and then they can make a way better, cool social network feature-rich app. So, yeah.
I think people like visualization. I mean, you know, so NFTs is always a good idea. And it also transports also some message, whatever that is, artistic, brand, etc., etc. Text.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a good analogy, but because it's about how does this stuff has to work under the hood. And the analogy, if it's an NFT or not, I mean, it doesn't. It's technically not a good.
It's a marketing aspect, I would say, for Lens protocol.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about the tech and it's just. I mean, the thing is, this is the same thing. When there was tokens, you know, when I proposed the ERC20 and then there was the ICO wave, suddenly everything was a token. Every debate I had anywhere, every project anybody wanted to do now was about tokens and a token, and everything. The identity was a token. Now let's create a token for yourself. Let's create a token for everything. So then the NFT wave came, and now everything was an NFT, and now everything is an NFT. And that's kind of a very limited understanding of what smart contracts can do, because you can build all kind of things. I mean, one simple example is, If I have a smart contract-based profile where I can attach any information, I could actually now send me or you can send me an NFT, and now that NFT says, you know, I was a great community member and it's a badge of some sort, right? I can send this NFT. Technically, what that means is there's an external contract that's the NFT, and inside this external contract, my profile address is assigned to the badge. That's one way of doing it.
I see a lot of scam possibilities there.
But there is also a different way you could do it, where you could say, okay, because you have now this profile with an unlimited key value store, you can now write a claim that's signed by you, for example, as the claim giver, that says, hey, he has this thing, this badge, and now I can include that into my profile, and I can show everybody that you said this. So the benefit of this is I don't need to trust an external smart contract that might have some upgradability. I can remove that badge at any point in time, and you cannot, or anyone else can transfer it. So you get the same outcome from a user point of view, but it's a very different way of how you build it that has nothing to do with an NFT.
Right.
So this is just as an understanding is that there's so many very different ways of doing the same thing, and we need to understand that smart contracts are extremely flexible programs that anybody can invent whatever they want. And we are in step 2 where people figured out NFTs out of step million. Just saying.
All right.
I had one more question though, but only,
Yeah,
only
go ahead.
no,
no?
yeah,
Okay.
we should be done. All right. I mean, I think there will be much more conversation. I'm sure people can reach out to you on Twitter. You'll be happy to respond.
Actually, please don't.
I know that you're quite busy right now. Wishing you all the best for the future, and thank you very much also for Anika. And hope you guys enjoyed this conversation a little bit. It went a little bit off NFTs, but I think it was quite informative in the LUKSO ecosystem. And yeah, have a good evening, all everyone. Thank you so much.